Hello everyone. We are going to do a basically short video on different types of Algebra I Regents questions, and this is Regents Spiral Review number 2. Number 1, we'll get right to it. School plans to have a school fundraiser to basketball games selling shirts with their school logo. A school contacted two companies to find out how much it would cost to have the shirts made. Company A charges this amount and $5 per shirt. And company B, I'm going to put that in a different color, charges a $25 setup fee and $6 per shirt. Write an equation for each company that could be used to determine the total cost. So company A, I'm just going to put it here, would cost $50 for the setup fee. That is the B, that is the y-intercept, and $5 per shirt. So we're going to have to start with y equals $5 per shirt, 5x, x, total cost, which is C. I'm going to put that as C. $5x, and then plus the $50 setup fee for company A. Company B, the total cost would be C equals, company B is a $25 setup fee and $6 per shirt. So we're just going to put 6x plus the 25. Now it says determine algebraically to state the minimum number of shirts that must be ordered for it to be cheaper to use company A. So when we're talking about comparing and just basically finding that break-even point between the companies, you are going to always set up an equation that is equal, each expression is equal to each other. So company A on one side and company B on the other. And then we are going to subtract the 5x on both sides. This cancels, and you have 50 equals x plus 25. I'm going to bring that over here and write down 50 equals x plus 25. So you minus 25 from both sides. And 25's cancel, you get 25 equals x. So at 25 shirts, when you have 25 shirts, both companies would cost exactly the same. And there is your answer. 26 shirts, 25 that would cost the same, 26 A would be cheaper. So that's the minimum number of shirts that would have to be ordered. So every time that I see a question like this, I'm just going to rewrite it. And I rewrite it just so I am working off my own equation. It just gives me a little bit more space. So we're going to do distributive property here, negative 5 times k and negative 5 times 4. So this is negative 5k, negative 20 is greater than or equal to 3k. We're going to do distributive property right here, right on the fly. And 3k times 3 times negative 4 is negative 12. We are going to subtract, actually I'll add to keep it in the positive. You know, when I'm adding the smaller of the variable, the coefficient for the variable, that means I am going to work in the positive. And therefore, working in the positive when you're talking about an inequality, you are not, when you divide, you're going to divide by a positive, so that's 8k minus 12. Then you add 12 to both sides, and we are going to move this back up here. This cancels. This cancels, and I'm going to go right up here. Negative 20 plus 12 is negative 8, greater than or equal to 8k. Then I'm going to see when I divide, I'm going to divide by a positive. And then this cancels, and then k comes down, but you just be careful because you have to read it from the variable out to the number itself. This is k is less than or equal to 1, and k is less than or equal to 1. That is d. So just be careful if you do it that way. And if you don't do it that way, and you're deciding to minus 3k on both sides, that means you're going to have a negative 8k. And remember, when you divide by a negative, that's when you have to flip that inequality. I just avoided that by dividing by the positive. All right, this one, a lot of people just find it very difficult to solve literal equations. And this is a literal equation that I am going to write over again. All right, so it can be calculated for the surface of a cylinder, and which equation can be used to find the height. And you notice that every single one of these equations in these choices says that you have to solve for h. So remember, when you're solving for h, you're actually trying to get everything away from where the h is. So the first thing that I am going to do is take this 2 pi r squared, and we're just going to move it all the way over to this side, 2 pi r squared. So that means it's s minus 2 pi r squared equals 2 pi RH. Notice that I kind of isolated everything that was with the H on the right side just by that one move of subtraction. Now think about what you have to do on this side. Your eyes are on the right side right now because you have to solve for H. You have to get that H alone. There it is, and that's where your eyes are. So what inverse operation could you basically perform to get the H away from the 2, the pi, the r? Well, all of this is multiplication, so the inverse of multiplication is division. So I'm going to divide by 2, pi, and r. And I'm going to leave the H alone because, again, I have this right here that I am going to cancel. So we're going to have the 2's cancel. We're going to have the pi cancel. We're going to have the r cancel. And then we're going to write H equals, and I know it's backwards a little bit, it's S minus 2 pi r squared over 2 pi r. And that is 2. That is it. So you're looking to see that you're solving for H, and you did it using inverse operations, nothing different than what you've learned before, and that is it. So you're taking a look at this one. This is another solving equation situation. And just remember, you're going to use inverse operations all the way to solve for x. So that's the solution. So we're going to do distributive property, which is the first thing that we always do when we see parentheses. And we have -2 times -4x. That's a positive 8x. Be careful there. Negative times a negative. So I'm going to have that going on that side. I'm going to bring the smaller x over to the larger x. I try to do that all the time. It doesn't work out all of the time, but most of the time it will. This cancels, and then you're going to rewrite -2 plus (5x) equals 8. Then I'm adding 2 to both sides. Inverse operations all the way down. This cancels, and you have 5x equals 10. And this comes out to be a nice whole number. Divide by 5 on both sides. X equals 2. And that is your final answer. We're going to highlight that. That is what the answer is, and we're going to circle 2. And that's it for that one. For number 5, another distributive property deal here. Again, I'm going to rewrite 3/5. I need some space. All right. Don't know why that went back a page, but I'm just going to rewrite it. 3/5 x plus 4/3 equals 1.04. So, distributive property. This is 3/5 times x, which is 3/5 x. And then you can put this in the calculator. 4 times 3, though, is 12. 5 times 3 is 15. So you would get that. Equals 1.04. Then you minus 12/15 from each side. This now cancels. Minus 12/15. Now, I don't know. I have no idea what 1.04 minus 12/15 is. So I'm going to clear this out. Go to graph, clear it out first. And I'm going to put 1.04 minus alpha x 12/15. And that is 0.24. And you can see it right there, 0.24. That's the way I'm going to put that in. So I'm just going to put that 0.24 down here equals 3/5 x. One more step. Remember, we are going to multiply by the reciprocal. Just like that. And the 5 cancels with the 5. It cross cancels. And the 3 cancels with the 3. X comes down. And we're going to get 0.24. We're going to put that down. 0.24 times alpha x 5/3. And that is how we do it. And it is 0.4. X equals 0.4. That's your answer, 2. And that is it. Number 6, a local dog shelter spends an average of $2.50 per dog on food each day. The coordinator estimates the daily shelter's daily expenses using this function right here. Which statement E of X are correct? X represents the number of dogs at the shelter per day. Okay. X represents the number of volunteers at the shelter. So a local dog shelter spends an average of $2.40 per dog on food. Per dog. So the X represents, this X does not represent volunteers. The 30 represents the shelter's total expenses. No, the total expenses are, they're always, this is the total. So that's not it. 30 represents the shelter's non-food expenses. We don't know what that is, so we're gonna say 4 is out. Right, so the number of dogs per day. But say you are doing this and then all of a sudden you realize, hey, there has to be 2 answers. So which one did I cross out that could be an answer? So you're going to just take a look. 1 is definitely an answer. So I circled it. So this is good, right? Represents the number of dogs. We know those are dogs, the number of dogs. But the 30, let's see what that is. It's usually an initial amount. Could be spent on anything here. The 30 represents the shelter's total expenses. No way. That is out. 30 represents the non-food expenses. It could be. So we're just gonna put that down as a possible answer because it could be that they're spending an initial amount of money not on food, just on something else that they're not telling you. So it spends an average of $2.40 per dog on food each day. And then the daily expenses, 30, we don't know what the rest of the $30 where it's going to, but that's non-food expenses. So we're going to say 1 and 4 is your answer. And that's it. Those are difficult. That's a difficult question only because that second one is a little bit more entailed there, where the 30 is really, they're not telling you what the 30 represents, but they are telling you it's non-food because it says $2.40 on the dog food. So just to kind of go over like all of these types of questions, or most of them, they're all talking about solving for some equation. And just remember, we have to make sure that we are using inverse operations when we are solving. Every single thing that we are talking about here, every time that we're solving, we are solving for a variable of some sort. And if it's multiplication that is surrounding that variable, then we divide. So you're just taking a look at this right here, we have to solve for h here. And that means 2 pi and r are attached to h by multiplication. And once you see that multiplication, remember, ask yourself, what is the opposite of multiplication? It is division. And that's why we're dividing on both sides, because again, we want to cancel out everything but the h. And you see where I'm going here. If you're looking at h, your eyes are on h because they want you to solve for h. So your eyes are on that right side of the equation. Then you ask yourself, what do I have to do that's opposite of what is attaching the 2, the pi, the r, and the h together? What operation is that? That is multiplication. That's where you're getting division from. Almost all of these equations are, when you're setting up, all of these are This is Algebra 1, so you're solving for equations, asking you, what does this number mean? What does that number mean? This last question, what does it represent? What does X represent? That represents the number of dogs. What does 30 represent? 30 represents the money they're spending, the initial amount of money they're spending before they have the 240 per dog that they're spending. So that's basically it. And thank you for watching this video. Hopefully that helped, and I'll see you next time. Bye, everybody.